Hello, and thank you for joining us at Complete in Christ as we continue to talk about the life of a Jesus follower and simply following Jesus. The series has been entitled Follow Me, and how Jesus invites us to follow Him and how this radically changes our life. And last few times we've talked about a passage from the book of James, in James chapter 4, verses 7 and 8, and how that as I follow Jesus, that there's some principles here that really become important in my life. And in James chapter 4, verse 7, it says this. It says, "Submit therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you." And then it says this, "Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded." We've talked about how that as a follower of Jesus, or as I follow Jesus, I begin to understand the importance of submission. It says, "Submit therefore to God." That God, He is the authority. He's God, I'm not. He's the creator, I'm the creation. And I'm to place myself in the right position under His authority. And I'm to live out life under the authority of the maker of heaven and earth. Then it says, "Resist the devil, and he will flee from you." As we submit ourselves to the Lord, He empowers us to resist the attacks of the enemy. There's an enemy that wants to destroy me, that wants to devour my life. And as I submit myself to God, He empowers me to say no to the attacks of the enemy. He allows me to see and discern between the truth and a lie. He also protects me against myself and my flesh, and I begin to live this life of surrender and submission and stand against my own desires. Then he says to draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. Just remind you of what an awesome promise that is. And man, what a privilege it is for us to lean in close to God, to lean in close to Jesus, to do life leaning in close and hearing His heartbeat for me. And that we begin to understand what an awesome privilege it is to live life in the presence of Jesus, to live life empowered by His Spirit. And then today, what we want to talk about is what he ends this verse 8 with. Listen again to what it says. "Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded." You double-minded. Those that he's dealing with double-minded people, those that were saying one thing but actually living something else, saying that I'm a follower of Jesus but not always living like a follower to Jesus. Oftentimes in our life we're double-minded. We say one thing and we live something else. But he's reminding them, look, this is not the way it's supposed to be. He says, "Cleanse your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, you double-minded." When you think about that, as we draw near to Jesus, as we really do life leaning in close, what we begin to recognize is this, is that God is holy and I'm not. That, man, He is holy and righteous above everything else. And I'm not like that. That oftentimes that I do things that I should not do. There's things going on in my heart that should not be there. And there needs to be some cleansing and there needs to be some purifying. So he says, "Cleanse your hands, you sinners." That there's some actions, there's some deeds, there's some things that I am doing in my life that I'm allowing to happen, that I may be involved in, that they don't need to be there. There needs to be some cleansing. I need to remember 1 John 1:9 that if I confess my sin, if I confess those things that are not right in my life, those actions, those deeds, if I see them like He sees them, what He does is, because He's righteous and just, He cleanses me. He washes me clean from those things. As I get close to Him, I begin to understand there's some actions in my life that need to go. They're simply not right. Now, I think oftentimes that we struggle with that. I know when I was a kid, I lived in rural central Mississippi, had the privilege to grow up in the country. And I remember that when I was in the 5th grade that we got a telephone. But before then, in the afternoon, my mom would step outside and she would just call my name for me to come home when it was time to eat. And often on those days, I would be at some cousins up the road playing. There wasn't anything for us to go and play with people that lived in our community. And I had some cousins that lived not very far from me, and I would take a back road up to their house. And man, we would play and play and play. We'd play outside. We'd play football or baseball or basketball, whatever season it was, they would play with me. And I loved going up there. But I can just remember my mom stepping out and yelling my name and saying, "Wayne, it's time to come home. Supper's ready." Most days I would just keep on playing until about the third or fourth time she would come out and she would yell my whole name. She would say, "Virgil Wayne Hudson, you better get to this house. It's time to eat." And man, I'd run home. I'd go in the back door of the house and my mom or my dad would say something like this: "You need to clean up. You need to wash your hands. It's time to eat." Man, I'd run in the bathroom. I'd turn on a little bit of cold water. I may hit the soap. And I'd rinse my hands off. I'd dry them off on the towel. And I'd go have a seat at the table. You see, I wouldn't wash my hands very well. But what I began to realize was that later on in life, I allowed that same principle to spill over into my spiritual life. You see, I wanted to just clean up just enough to where my mom and dad would still allow me to sit at the table and reap the benefits of being part of the family. And spiritually, I would do the same thing. Man, I would just clean up just enough to where you thought I was okay, to where people thought I was really good spiritually, or that I thought I would clean up just enough to where I thought I could still reap the benefits of sitting at the Father's table. So there's times in my life spiritually and your life spiritually that we're doing things or we're involved in activities that we should not be involved in. We need to break out the bar of soap. We need to turn on the hot water. We need to allow God to spiritually cleanse us, to clean us from all unrighteousness. Thank God for the power of what Jesus did on the cross to clean us up. And then that's just purifying. This purging of our hearts, that we allow things to come in our hearts that don't need to be there. And oftentimes we just push them back and we don't deal with them. You see, purifying and cleansing are two different things. Sometimes purifying hurts. Sometimes we have to go deep in order to allow God to purge us. It's kind of like cleaning out a closet. Man, I'm okay with mopping the floor. I'm okay with vacuuming. I'm okay with washing the dishes. But sometimes Tina tells me, "You need to clean out your closet. You need to clean out your drawers." Why? I'll say, "Why do I need to clean out my closet? Nobody's going to see it." She'll say, "Because there's things in the back of that closet you don't even know there that's taking up valuable space." Can I tell you, oftentimes it's the same thing in our lives. We'll allow things to come into our hearts, and we know they're not right. We just don't want to deal with them. So we push them back, and they're taking up valuable space. You see, as I get close to Jesus, as I really begin to live life under his authority, as I begin to be empowered to resist the enemy, and I lean in close and I begin to really see me as God sees me, I begin to really see what's going on in my life. I begin to realize there's some cleansing that needs to take place. There's some purifying that needs to take place. And thank God for the power of the cross to purify my heart and to cleanse my actions and my deeds. I want to encourage you, but I also want to challenge you. Let's let God, through his power, let's allow him through his Spirit to convict us of sin, to cleanse us of all unrighteousness, to purify our hearts so we can walk in right relationship with him. Go let Jesus be Jesus in you today and live life leaning in close to Jesus. May he cleanse our hands and may he purify our hearts as we walk in relationship with him. Have a blessed day. Thank you so much for watching Complete in Christ as we strive to teach you about the Christ life. And we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and may you have a blessed day walking with Jesus.